Meeting to order. Today is March 20th, 2024. The time is 12:31. We'll start with a roll call of the commission. Please state your name and if you have any conflicts with any of the applicants.
Jeff Ringer, no conflict.
Susan Kruger Barber, no conflict.
I'm Eric Carter. I also have no conflicts.
Matthew Christensen, no conflict.
Jeff Olson, no conflict.
Marcy Lemonnier, no conflicts.
Thank you. Just a note on decorum, although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the committee may speak or ask questions. When speaking, please be sure to speak into the microphone so the record is clear. State your name and city of residence for the record. Please also limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over people. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or being otherwise disruptive during the hearing. And can I get the agenda items back? Oh, okay. All right. Item number 1, Brian Dabb requests a certificate of appropriateness for a 3-lot subdivision in the R1.6 one-family residential zone in order to create 2 new building lots adjacent to a registered historic residence located at 905 East Center Street. And with that, we'll turn the time over to Dustin Wright for the staff presentation.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so this request will also involve the removal of an accessory structure, which is the garage from the property, and would require the addition of a new garage on the property to maintain compliance with the zoning requirements. So here's the property that we're looking at. It's the applicant's property. It's listed on the Provo Landmarks Register. It's here on the corner of 9th East and Center Street. There was a home adjacent to this on that parcel on the east side there of it that was demolished a few years ago. And then the parcels were combined into this parcel you see here.
Dustin, that's the east side of that driveway.
Correct.
Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah. The applicant is requesting to subdivide the property as shown in this concept. So here you see the existing house would remain on the east side where the demolished home was. That would become a lot for a new home to be built. And then on the north of the property, they would like to subdivide that part off for another lot to be built. And so as you can see there, there's the existing garage would need to be removed for that. So I put together a few slides to kind of help go over some of the things that staff saw with this. So this is the aerial image, old one from 1965 of the property. So it's a little hard to see, but you can see the existing house. Next to it, you can see the house that was demolished. And then above it, you see where there was a garage located there. So I look back at other aerials and I've seen the garage specifically in that location through several different aerial images that were clear enough to be able to tell what was there. So, for example, 1983, 1993, and even into the current ones. And so in 1994, there was a building permit, and I believe the applicant said he's going to show some stuff about that for a garage. When I pulled up that application, there wasn't information in it, but there was a building permit in 1994. But like I said, in 1993, there was a garage shown in that same location. So here's a current aerial showing that it's still in that same spot. And so, whether or not there were some structural upgrades or some changes to it, the location of a detached garage has existed on this property for quite some time. And so as far as zoning requirements go, if this garage were to be removed, new covered parking would have to be put on the property to maintain compliance with the covered parking requirement in the zone. And so you would also have to be looking at, would that be appropriate to put a new structure on that smaller parcel if these properties were subdivided? Would that be appropriate? What would that look like? Things like that are things you'll need to consider as well. And here's some photos of the home. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the garage shown in the back of the property there from that image. And then this is the historic site form. So when the property was put on the register, they did an analysis on that. You can see under outbuildings, it says total 1, contributing is 1. So that would be the garage. And this is the architectural description, the nomination. So on this, it talks about associated outbuildings and structures on the property, and it lists the 2-car garage in the northeast corner on the lot here. And then this is, with that nomination, they showed the parcels, the parcel map. And so that one with the stripes on it, that's the original parcel for this historic home. And then the parcel next to it is the one that was combined that we saw in the beginning there. So that's where the home that was demolished was on that parcel. And so with this, up here, I just kind of want to point out that staff feels that it would be appropriate to divide it back into the 2 lots like it was, allowing for a new home to be built on that parcel to the east. It would be appropriate to adjust that boundary line so that the garage is fully on the property with it that has the historic home on it. So there could be a jog back there, but essentially keeping these general division of the property and not doing the 3rd lot that the applicant would like to do, because that would remove the garage. It would require that a new garage is built on the historic property, which would then alter that configuration that's been there for quite some time. And so that's staff's recommendation would be for a 2-lot subdivision, not the 3-lot. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have from that.
So point of clarification here. So aerial photos and others suggest that there has been a garage there for a century or whatever but the particular building that is there now, do we have specific information on how long that building has been there?
So, excuse me. So 1965 is the kind of the oldest image that I could clearly see that there was a garage in that location.
A garage, but the garage that is currently existing?
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't know.
The 1994 building permit didn't have any information that I could see. Maybe the applicant, he mentioned he was going to bring some stuff.
So we know there was with the footprint, there's been a building there, but we don't know if it's the same structure or not.
Correct. Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, within that footprint, we know that there's been a structure there since at least 1965. Not necessarily when the home was built in the early 1900s. There probably wasn't a structure there.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a carriage house originally? I guess we don't know.
I don't think it was original, but at some point it was built. And then from that time, it's from what I can see in the aerials that it was there. Like I mentioned, in 1993, the aerial before the 1994 building permit showed that there was one there as well. So, yeah, that location and that and that same footprint. It wasn't necessarily bigger, smaller, or anything like that. It seems to have been a structure in that general footprint. And so staff's recommendation is that that is preserved and not changed over time. This property when it was originally constructed, when it was originally built, it was on a larger parcel. Ninth East didn't exist. Over time, some changes obviously took place. A road was put in. Parcels kind of shrunk over time, but for the last quite a while, it's been that configuration that it currently is, and that's what we should try to preserve. If that helps answer those questions.
How large would the two lots be? What are the acres of each of them? Thanks.
Yeah, so
Okay, great.
I don't know the
So they-
acreage, but it's in the R1.
That's what I
They meet the
meant. I meant
standards of the
square feet.
R16 zone.
Yeah, so minimum 6,000 square foot lots, they would meet those requirements.
Dustin, in attachment 3, which is the historic site form, can you, it lists the outbuildings and then it's total contributing. Can you kind of explain what it means that it was deemed to be contributing when this application was originally submitted?
Yeah, so contributing means it would be contributing to the historic character, historic significance of the property. So it wasn't necessarily out of period from when they're looking at the property as a whole. They would say, okay, this dates back to when it would be historically contributing to the character and the significance of the historic structure, as opposed to built more concurrently with more recently in recent years than it would be non-contributing as far as the historic significance of the property.
And is this from Provo City or from this state that it was assessed?
Yeah, so this form would be from the State Historic Preservation Office. So that's their standard form at that time when projects would be nominated, and then the city would then review these documents when we put it on the local Provo Historic Register.
It looks like the survey was done in 1996, and then I believe the staff report says that it was listed in 1998. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So why is staff not in favor of the 3 lots rather than 2?
Because the 3 lots has to remove that garage, which the records show that it was contributing to the character and the historic significance of the property. If it was also removed, so I can jump to the right slide here. So if it was removed, as you can see, as it's being proposed there, we would require to continue meeting today's zoning ordinance, that there'd be covered parking for each of these lots. So lot 2 with the historic home would then have to build a new structure on it for covered parking, which would then further change the historic character of the property. Having a smaller parcel and having a new building and losing a building that's been there for in that location. Whether or not the garage is changed, the location of that garage, I think, brings on its significance, its location, and its size.
Did that answer your question, Jeff?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the commission?
This isn't helpful. I have a question. What if they included the existing garage and had a kind of odd, would that be then exceed or go under the square footage if they kept the garage in there? Or is that not even considered? So don't even,
Yeah,
it's
we
irrelevant. Yeah.
haven't considered
Okay.
what that would do to lot one, if that would still make it be able to
Okay.
comply or not. There's going to be setbacks from a garage and a property line. So I think that would pretty much make lot one not work.
Perhaps I read something or interpreted something incorrectly from the staff report, but I was under the impression that changing the original lot boundaries alters the historic nature. There was something in the standards referenced. Apologies.
Yeah, maybe in standard one where it says property shall be used for its historic purpose and be placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and environment.
Yeah.
Any comments or any questions? Comment? I run and walk by this almost daily. So I know how tenuous keeping the center street in that area, Provo's gateway, if that makes sense, into the city and up for people visiting. And I worry somewhat if we increase that if we increase the density, because as I walk along, if I turn up 900 East, the houses go down, and there's like just this little section of grandiose structures still, if that makes sense, of the time period. And I do resonate with the need to keep that nature still present, if that makes sense, if I'm allowed to make a comment because I walked by that, I looked at the sign. I forgot to check out the garage, but I feel like this is kind of a precious little area that's not holding on as well as some other areas of Center Street. And I think we want to keep building that up. But also I care about density. So.
Any additional questions or comments for Dustin? All right.
Thank you, Dustin.
Yes, thank you, Dustin. Thanks, Matthew, for reminding me. We'll now give time to the applicant. You will have 15 minutes for your presentation. When your time is up, you'll hear a ding and the microphone will be muted. Following your presentation, if we have questions, we'll invite you to come forward.
I'd like to thank the commission for having us here today. I'll address the elephant in the room immediately. If anybody would like to see it, here's the receipt paid for the Van Wagenens to raise and replace the garage at 905 East Center, 1994. Here's the building permit that was signed off. There is no part of that garage that is historic. From the footing and foundation to the very tip of the roof. The original home did not have a garage. The existing lot line for the home is approximately right there. It is 49.5 feet from the western lot line. You'll see in our proposed layout that we widen that to 61 feet. The reason we go to that 61.5 feet is the R16 zone that is the underlying zone, requires 60 foot of frontage. I don't know if the commission members got to, maybe I can just ask Dustin if you don't mind. Dustin, did you share with the commission members my reply to your staff report? Okay. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to invite my wife to just read that reply into the record. I think will clear up a few items. Oh, excuse me. Brian and Melissa Dabb, Orem, Utah.
This is a letter that he wrote in reply, so he's the one talking, not me. Times change and we must all adapt while still honoring the past. The parcel which this home was built on has morphed several times as homeowners' needs have changed. It should continue to be adaptable today. In 1904, the parcel where this home is located was part of a 20-acre deed. It appears when the home at 905 East Center was first occupied in 1905, its mortgage was on a 2-acre parcel. That was later reduced in 1910. The Johnsons were then the owners to a approximately 1-acre parcel. It then passed through 3 additional owners, McGarry, Colvin, and Flood, before being sold to Browns in 1921 with a relatively equal description. In 1935, when Alma Van Wagenen acquired the property, the recorded acreage had increased by 5 acres and was described in 4 parcels. Without plotting them, I believe much of this land may be part of what is currently 900 East. It is not clear from the abstract what change was made, but a Provo City zoning map was applied to the property in 1939, and in 1942, land to the west of the property was sold to Provo City. It appears these transactions may have included 900 East being established. By 1947, the property was again just less than 1 acre, but had passed to Alma's son Harold and his daughter-in-law Ruth. In 1949, the plat shows Provo City acquired title to the west 16.5 feet of this lot, increasing the width of 900 East and narrowing this lot to 49.5 feet. In 1986, the property was still owned by Harold and Ruth Van Wagenen, but had been reduced in depth to 201 feet, making it approximately 0.23 acres, roughly its current size. In 1971, the Van Wagenens purchased the adjoining property at 911 East Center. Harold passed away in 1992. The garage on the 2 properties was built after his death. The garage is not historic in any way. I have a copy of the building permit. It is not evident in the building permit why it was allowed to be built as a single structure on both lots. In 1998, the Van Wagenen home was nominated to the Landmarks Register. Ruth didn't like the idea. I was told by her 2 daughters that she felt pressured to allow designation. From city staff letters, one can read about her reluctance. In one particular letter, she was promised, quote, the landmarks designation will actually open up the property to a broader range of purchasers. Landmarks designation may also open the door for present and future owners to receive tax credits and low-interest loans to maintain the property. Ruth passed away in 2003, frustrated that financial help promised had not come about. In 2011, I purchased both properties from Harold and Ruth's 2 daughters, Vicki and Cherie. Both properties were in poor physical condition. The daughters had become frustrated in attempts to find buyers. They told me several attempts failed due to current conditions. Due to prior interactions with them, they approached me and asked if I would please purchase the properties. Since 2000, I've owned several properties in the areas and have worked on projects for many more nearby. Upon inspection and investigation, I found the 911 East home had not had utilities connected in more than 15 years. The adobe brick walls were no longer structurally sound, and the original home area, the floors had fallen into the crawl space below. Due to its condition, the home at 911 East was removed. Due to survey rotational errors, I was not immediately able to rebuild at 911 East Center. Due to the extensive work that has been required at 905 East Center, the historic home in question today, financially, it has not been prudent to rebuild a single-family home on the 911 East Center lot. We have attempted several different rebuild concepts which have not come to fruition. In 2015, after resolution of the boundary lines rotational issues with neighbors to the east, including extensive survey work, I created one tax ID for both lots to decrease property tax liability until a better plan could be agreed upon. We have not given up on finding a solution, but we've been greatly frustrated. I'm asking that we be able to preserve the home located at 905 East Center, but in doing so, refigure the lot lines to better fit today's expectations. I propose widening the lot to 60 feet of frontage on Center Street, relocating driveway access and required covered parking, and reducing the depth of the lot to create a third lot across the back of the two existing lots. This design configuration meets all requirements for the current underlying zone, which is R16. It would also bring the currently non-conforming historical lot into conformity with current zoning. A concept plan for the 3 lots has been prepared by the planning, engineering, and design firm of Dudley and Associates and was submitted with our application. Small changes in the concept plan may be required for Provo City to approve the subdivision. Any required changes to the subdivision plan would not affect the historic home. I ask the commission members to grant a certificate of appropriateness so that we can apply for the subdivision approval.
So the Foothill neighborhood, which this comes within, is a little unique. As you drive around the neighborhood, you'll see that there are garages that are built across lot lines serving 2 different homes, the same structure. One of these was just kind of brought forward to light. If you go just north of the subway on 900 East, they just cleared a bunch of trees. You'll notice that 2 homes share the same garage, but they're on separate lots. There are several others within the neighborhood that I have found. If we're unable to receive a certificate of appropriateness, the garage will not stay in its current condition. The half that is on the lot that is not part of the landmarks designation would be removed. We would still meet the parking requirement with that because the parking requirement for the R16 is 1 covered parking space. I don't think it's the best idea. I do believe that putting 2 smaller homes that can be affordable, that can revitalize the neighborhood, is the best course of action. We can meet all the underlying zoning requirements if a certificate of appropriateness is granted. Now, where we put a new garage, a carport, whatever, if we are granted a subdivision after this here, we will certainly end up back in front of this commission to approve whatever that structure is, because that structure will need to be designed to fit in. We would just simply ask that we be allowed to move forward. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You have questions?
Yes. Do you have?
Before you head away from the mic, quick question for you. On your 3-lot proposal here, what's the access to lot 1? Is it off 9th East? Is it off a center driveway off Center Street? What do you imagine?
There is currently a access off 900
Yeah.
East, which is at the very rear of
Right.
the 905 property. My personal opinion is if we can find a way to have all 3 homes access via the current driveway,
Off a central driveway.
that is my preference.
Off center? Which current driveway?
So the current driveway is the dashed lines going right up
Off Center Street.
From center.
from
Yeah.
Center Street. I think it's a better configuration if we allow parking to be at the rear of the lots 2 and 3, the hammerheads that would be created by the other driveways would allow cars to turn around and actually pull out forward. I've never liked the access on 900 East. It's one of the reasons that we are using the driveway from the 911 lot for the home that is being occupied right now. The 49 and a half feet width, I don't know if we can get back to the picture that is the overhead. There's a more modern one right there. So you can see the grass to the west of the concrete driveway. There is a concrete sidewalk just to the west of that. The 49 and a half feet actually falls right at the edge of that concrete sidewalk. So the grass and the concrete drive there are part of the eastern lot that is not currently occupied by a home. You can kind of see that where the middle of the garage roof line, if you drew that line from front to back of that lot, that would be roughly the lot line. So as I indicated, if we are not granted a certificate of appropriateness, whether we move forward with different options that we need to look at, the eastern half of that garage would have to come down either way.
Thank you.
I have a question. How much are these affordable homes going to cost? Approximately.
Unfortunately, today, if I were to build on that lot just as it is, we would surpass 650. If we get a third lot, I hope to get down near that 450 mark.
Okay, and could I ask and I don't have the lot numbers up again, lot 1, which direction is the house facing?
My understanding is city ordinance says it will face 900 East and present a face that looks appropriate to 900 East. But I would again say that I'd like to, if we can make it work for everybody, have the shared driveway for all 3 homes. If not, there is a driveway that's already existing that is as far away from Center Street and 9th East intersection as we can get. And we would probably use that driveway if no other options are available.
And lot 3, is it facing towards Center Street?
Yes, it would be facing Center Street. So the 2 homes would be facing Center Street and 1 facing 900 East as far as presentation.
And I'm assuming there's going to be no parking on this driveway. It's just going to be an access road.
I believe that that's possible. I have a similar situation at my home in Orem. I can park 7 cars off the street without blocking anybody. They can all turn around. My driveway happens to be 200 feet long.
Okay, thank you.
Questions come up for you, Dustin. Are you able to come and answer?
I'm curious. Were you able to look at the evidence of that he just presented to us of the, like, looking at that evidence, would that help? How would you feel seeing what he presented regarding the garage that's affecting so much choice?
I haven't seen that.
Could you look at it?
But essentially, kind of like I mentioned, I'm not necessarily saying the garage itself is historic in nature. It's more the location and the fact that there is a garage and was a garage in that location since, back to at least 1965. So, yeah, like I mentioned, in 1994, which it looks like this shows that there's an application which we have for the city. It was still rebuilt in the same location, in the same footprint. And so that's what we like to see preserved, is that the building stays in that location in that size.
Dustin, I've got a question for you. Just more of a point of order question. If we were to adopt the recommendation of the staff and deny, but indicated that we'd be open to a 2-lot subdivision, would the applicant need to resubmit another request, or could we approve a 2-sublot today, or would there have to be an appropriate certificate of appropriateness application for that?
Tonight you could approve. So staff's recommendation is that you approve a certificate of appropriateness to divide this parcel into 2.
Oh, that is the recommendation. Okay, I thought it was just to deny.
Deny the 3 and approve
Oh,
the 2.
okay, you're right. I see that.
That comes with widening the 905 center, or
So right now the city recognizes it as 1 parcel. I know the applicant believes that it's still 2, but we look at it as 1 parcel. So the subdivision essentially would create a new boundary line between the 2, and we would have that just jog around the garage, as opposed to saying that half the garage has to be torn down or something like that. That isn't necessary. The property line, when it gets back to where the garage is, could just simply jog around it, and then you'd have 2 lots, and that would be fine.
Okay. And then I got a question for the applicant as well. Unless, before Dustin leaves, do we have any more Dustin questions?
I'm just curious about the green space for each of the buildings. How much, and how much will be paved, like in the view versus green space? Because I know pavement has affected my neighborhood negatively when they pave too much. So I'm curious about that.
Sorry, I didn't catch the first part of the question. If you could repeat that.
Regarding the need for parking, how much of the green space would then be paved? Like for creating car parking spaces and pathways?
So the existing driveway from Center Street, I think that's a great idea to continue that same driveway to serve
Just keep it.
both lots.
Okay.
I think paving would just have to meet today's lot coverage requirements.
So applicant question then for me, if we were to ignore the staff recommendation and approve your certificate of appropriateness request, the issue, of course, is the existing structure, the garage would be raised and it'd be put into 3. Could you show the proposal for the 3? Yeah. Obviously we need to put, or you would need to put 3 separate covered parking places. And is that appropriate? I mean, is that acceptable to you? Do you have concerns with that?
I have no concerns with that. The lot sizes are such that we can incorporate garages into the homes themselves. On lot 3, I would imagine it would be at the rear, so it wouldn't show or be seen. That way we would maintain that same integral look that we're seeing down the block, where the garages are not necessarily seen. We have, some play in how those lots are laid out. This is just a concept plan that says it is possible. It appears that staff has some concern about the size of lots. We could reduce one lot size and increase another one a little bit. But in doing so, we run into certain other obligations that ordinance requires. The lot depth you're seeing in lots 2 and 3, the 113 feet, is driven by ordinance. The front yard setbacks are already 30 feet. There's another 35 feet in front of those lot lines until you get to the street, so you're essentially 70 feet back. But if I go beyond the 113, I have to add 10 more
10 more.
feet of setback
Oh, I see.
area. So the current layout you're seeing here would indicate that we would have a combination of 40 feet because we're at that 113 or below. We have to go to 50 feet if we increase above that 113. So there's a lot of little minutia that may not be understood, but that's why it's laid out the way it is right now. I could see their lot 1 might be decreased and lot 2 increased if that's, the concern, but we have other things at play if that happens.
So thank you. So with lot 2, with the proposal, if I remember the city ordinance for landmark designation right now, if I understand or I'm interpreting it correctly, for you to put a covered parking space in lot 2, because it's street facing and because it's a corner lot,
It would probably turn the corner in the rear. You can kind of see the little pop-out addition at the rear now.
well, I think we would be somewhat reluctant to have something actually attached to the house because it would change
We
the
can
historic
still
nature.
meet the ordinance and put it in that rear
The corner kind
yard area, not attached to the
Okay.
house.
Okay. I don't know. I can't predict how we would, but
Yeah.
you're aware of the concerns.
I
yeah, so,
understand the
okay.
concerns, and like I said, if we get to that point, I know we're coming back here to look at architectural detailing and
Sure.
things that say, yes, that's appropriate. We like it.
Great.
We're good with it.
Okay. Thank you.
May I I would invite any of you to come walk the property at any time if you'd like. I do have tenants in there now, but, if there's that interest, I just want to open that up.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the commission? Nope. Okay. We will now open the hearing to public comments. If there are any neighborhood district chairs present, you will have 3 minutes to comment. General public will have 2 minutes to comment. When your time is up, you will hear a ding and the microphone will be muted. Each person may make 1 comment. If we have questions, we'll invite you to come forward at this time. If you have comments, please come forward and state your name and for the record.
Ann Woodbury in the Foothills neighborhood. I'm going to just offer a broader perspective.
And why don't you stand next to one of the mics?
Broader perspective rather than just the specific parcel. Okay. Across the street on the west side of 9th East are 2 properties that are unsightly. And to the east of this property are 3 older homes that are probably preservable, but are not being very well maintained. And next to that is a multi-unit 1960s vintage apartment complex. So this, what I think is a critical intersection in Provo, is worthy of preservation, but not to the detriment of the development incentive. And I'm concerned that if we don't give this landowner some reason to develop this property, he might walk away from it. This is just my concern. I'm just expressing that. And this property may not be maintained the way the others are not maintained. So, and on the other hand, if this lot is developed and improved and looks nice, it might give some incentive to those other landowners to improve their property. Might increase their values by improving their property, which would greatly improve that critical intersection that I drive past every day and wish those houses would burn down. So I am speaking for myself. I haven't surveyed anyone in the Foothills neighborhood other than McKay Jensen, the chair, who in an email to me expressed that he doesn't have any objection to this proposal. I'm only speaking for myself, that I think that allowing some improvement would.
Thank you.
Wow. I don't think I've ever had anybody say they wish my house would burn down in a public meeting before. Can we put on the screen the
Norm, why don't you introduce yourself as
Norm,
well?
Norm Thurston, 965 East Center Street. Can we put on there the lots from the original application that show the lots for the whole block? There are two things that I think have not been mentioned that are important to mention. One is that this is not just one property that's affected as a historic home. There are 5 historic homes on this block, including the one that you can see in that picture. And then if you can show there's another schematic that shows all of those historic lots. And it's not just the buildings themselves, it's the configuration, it's the size. So you can see right there, there are 5 historical homes. So there's the subject property, there's the one next door, the one next door, the one next door. Then there are the apartments that I don't have love for. And then there's another one on the corner. And if you look at that map, you'll see what do they have in common. They all have a common characteristic, which is the shape of the lot. That's part of the historic nature of these, is the shape of the lot. They also all have in common that they have the garage that is set back from the house with the driveway. Every one of those houses has a driveway leading back to a garage. I fully support the 2-lot solution, and I would even support having that lot rezoned. In fact, both lots rezoned to have accessory apartments, because I think that is a way of making the houses more affordable that still meets with the charm and character of the neighborhood. The other thing that has not been mentioned is that all of this area right there that you can see is covered by the East Center Street Design Corridor, which protects the historic nature of the homes. And the 3-lot solution actually would exempt a significant part of this lot from that design corridor. And so allow that to not be part of the design corridor, because it would not have to meet the Center Street restrictions if it were sold to another person to build on it. It would be free to do whatever they want. It would have to be consistent with 9th East, but not Center Street. So the East Center Street Design Corridor is something that we take very seriously. And by the way, if you come and visit that lot, visit all of the homes, I think I take exception to the fact that you would find that they're not being well taken care of. We've invested tens of thousands of dollars in every one of those homes to make them beautiful and to have them consistent with the historic corridor that we live on. So I think I would support the 2-lot solution and encourage you to adopt that today.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public at this time? Any questions from the commission on any of the comments that were heard?
I just have another comment, because this is part of my life, my neighborhood, walking with my children. My husband, we walk to the mountains. We don't drive by, so we see the neighborhood. I've seen the houses improved. The barn blue house has really improved over the last 20 years. I've seen increments of improvement, and I take and the other side needs a little more love and care of that street, but the side that is with the historic home is they're people who care about where they live. That's all. I had to be more gentle.
Thank you, Susan. There are no further public comments. We'll close the public comment time period. And as a commission, we now get the opportunity to discuss the actions that can be taken. As I see it, and maybe Matthew, you can help, but we could follow the staff recommendation, which is denying the request for certificate of appropriateness, but approving certificate of appropriateness for a 2-lot subdivision with their conditions. We can approve the requested certificate of appropriateness. Would have to state what the new findings are that go against the staff report. Or a third option is to continue to a future date, which the next available meeting is April 17th during the same window of time.
I move that we continue to a future date. I care about density and improving the density and living for the environment and everything. But I also deeply care, again, about the historic nature. So I'd like to really, I've looked at the lot and walked by and thought about it, but I also I'd like to walk it. I'd like to walk it and think, and I'd like to talk to the neighbors around that one-on-one and hear them more. That's what I move. Is that how you do it?
Could we postpone that motion? I have
Okay,
a
thank
couple
you.
comments and
Got comments
questions.
first.
Oh, shoot. Thank you so much.
Is that okay if we not make a motion yet?
Yes.
I have a question for the applicant again. And I think we talked about this, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. If we were to approve a 2 subdivision, could you live with that? I mean, I know it's not what you're hoping for and proposing. I'm just trying to get so I understand both sides as well as I can. That's all. Right.
Personally, I don't believe that that's even necessary.
Right.
The Landmarks Commission has a pretty specific designation in the adopted, they've only adopted 49 and a half feet wide. The fact that I chose to have the county bill me once for 2 lots really doesn't change anything. I can't come in and divide this into 3 lots without the city permission.
Right.
I also can't combine it into one plat without their permission.
Right.
So for them to say that they recognize it as 1 lot seems a little disingenuous to me because their ordinance doesn't allow that.
Okay.
I believe I already have 2 lots.
So my question is, regardless of the way the city interprets it or the way you interpret it or understand it, could you live with 2 lots? I mean, could you build another house on there and still be able to
I could,
do
it would
something
not
with
be
it?
affordable.
Right. It'd be more expensive, but there's a possibility. I guess I'm just trying to understand
Correct.
different
And
outcomes, right?
I think it leaves 905 East Center very vulnerable. I'm not saying it'll happen.
No, we're talking about the
Anytime-
Van Wagen house right now, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I've been told the city wants a 10-foot sidewalk all the way down 9th East. From the cemetery to, north of BYU. If that happens, we've got a sidewalk right underneath the window. And we also now, instead of having a 49 and a half foot wide lot, we have a 39 and a half foot wide lot. I think we're putting the home in jeopardy by not allowing it to morph a little bit. But although Susan has suggested we push this forward, I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but if we do, I am not here for the next 6 months. I'm on a lunch break right now. I'm going to get back a little late, but I'm going to spend the next 6 months away.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. And just green space is not within the purview. I get why it's important, but that has nothing to do with what we have to do. But I get it.
Yeah, could I comment on that? I think the context is really important. Our purview is actually fairly narrow. We've been talking about a lot of issues that frankly aren't in our purview. We care about them, they provide context to this discussion, but frankly, our purview is fairly narrow. To that point, I'm not persuaded that the existing garage has any architectural merit of its own. Those of us who have seen it probably would agree with that. So we're forced to rely on the staff's argument that it is the existence of a function on that piece of land that is significant. It's an interesting argument, one that could certainly be overplayed as functions in society change over the years. I think we have to be careful with that argument. As I look at this, this commission has a well-deserved reputation for fighting hard to preserve the built history of this city, and we need to pay attention to that carefully. That home is an important part of our built history, but that built history now exists in 2024, where we have significant pressures in this city on housing. And so I, for one, am intrigued by the idea of the 3-lot subdivision, if it can be done, and the house preserved in an appropriate way. I think there are still issues to be resolved. I'm not opposed to pushing this forward, but I don't want to push it forward simply because we're avoiding a decision today. But that's where I'm at. I'm not particularly persuaded by the argument that the garage has to stay.
I have another question for Dustin. If the garage was a non-issue, if it was not historical, if it was not contributing in that staff report from 98, would there be any objections from the staff?
It would be less, I would say. I think
'Cause that seems to be what
I think
this denial is, the recommendation is based on the garage. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the big component. I think another part that you could look at and argue would be just the, the size of the lot and kind of how
Sure.
that was discussed. And the more and more we change and reduce and add and things like that, it does change the character of what originally was there. And I understand that, originally the site was much bigger, but
A lot bigger, probably.
things change and over time they get their own historic significance. And so those type of things, I think, are things to look at and consider, and how they, what story they tell on the historic property as far as, a structure that was built before people had cars, and then they later acquired cars and had a place to put them on their property. And so it tells that story of how properties have evolved in the city over time. And the comment about the other sizes of lots within the neighborhood there, and how that tells a story of maybe prestige. 2 mayors lived in this home, and so maybe they look at it later and see a 6,000 square foot lot, and not, if they could come and see it in that context, right? So it does change the character of the property every time we make those changes. Those are things to consider.
Thank you.
Any?
So I do say it again?
Yeah, you have to make the motion if you wanted to postpone.
6 months is a while, but
I guess in that regard, Bill?
If the commission feels inclined to continue the item, please make a condition of that continuance that the applicant submit to the planning department a plan that would show how he's going to have 2 off-street covered parking spaces for lot 2. Just looking at the plan, it looks like it's really hard to do. And to answer that question during the continuance would be very helpful.
Question for you, Bill. Since the applicant will be gone for 6 months, is he able to send a representative for him in his place for the next hearing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Now, do we have any motions?
I'm inclined to approve a certificate of appropriateness for a 3-lot personally right now. But if nobody else feels that way, then I'm happy to vote on my own.
I do too. Same.
I'm inclined to deny, actually, because of Norm Thurston's argument with the consistent length of the lots. I'm more on the deny side.
I'm more on the deny side, but I'm open because I believe in density and I feel like we have to be responsible for the future. So I'm a little bit like inside.
Do we feel more discussion could get us to a decision point? Or
I'd suggest, given the importance of this decision and the division among the council, we take a decision to continue for 1 month, but make that a hard deadline.
Hard month.
It does
Great.
no one in the city a good service to just put this off
Good.
indefinitely. I think we need to have a hard deadline for ourselves.
So is that a motion?
I was,
I motion to postpone with the continue with what is I don't remember the language of Bill saying, but showing us how he would, or they, the owners of the property, would then distribute the parking on the 3 properties. Was that language right enough? Did that make sense? 2 properties. Yes, thank you. 2 properties. Do I need to reword that again?
I don't think so.
Say, motion to continue with the condition.
Okay, motion to continue with the condition discussed earlier.
Second.
Okay, vote in favor of the motion.
Aye.
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 Aye. The commission is unanimous and the motion carries. Yeah, so that closes our
Thank you, Dash.
first agenda item. Yes, thank you. Item number 2, Phil Warner requests a Landmarks Certificate of Appropriateness on a remodel of an existing historical structure damaged by fire in the DT1 General Downtown Zone located at 71 East Center Street in the downtown neighborhood. And we turn the time over to Dustin Wright again.
Isn't the burnt structure part of the historic nature now? It's been so long.
Thank you. So, yeah, these are 2 buildings here, 2 buildings that were connected and had a restaurant that caught fire, and the interior of, especially the one on the west, was damaged. Thankfully, the historic facade was pretty well preserved. So these properties sit within the downtown Provo Historic District and are listed as significant structures in the district. And so the applicant has come forward with a request to have a certificate of appropriateness to preserve the 2 facades here, but then to be able to build some additional structure above it. So I'll just kind of go through some different images of the property over time, and then show you what they're proposing here. So essentially, like I said, preserve the 2 buildings facades, the 2-story brick facades, and then build a 3-story structure on the west building. And the component here would be that it would be stepped back from the facade. And so in our downtown zone, we typically see that step back from the floors above the first 3 floors. They're step back 20 feet. In this case, we're proposing, and the applicant's proposing, I guess, that it would be stepped back at the 2-story instead of the 3rd story. Above the 2nd story as opposed to above the 3rd story. with the intent to help keep that same massing that this property has had in its historic context, while still allowing them to have the opportunity to develop the property as opposed to having it be demolished because of the fire. So it kind of has a unique circumstance tied to it. And staff feels that this is a good opportunity to be able to preserve those facades as opposed to having them just removed and a new building put here. It kind of feels like a win-win opportunity to preserve that and give them the financial ability to profit in a way to be able to cover a lot of that historic preservation expense that they would potentially encounter as opposed to just building new following that the fire there. So staff supportive of it, and additional notes here. So here's kind of a look at it now. The lower storefront facade, the yellow painted area, that hasn't been the historic look of it. And so it would be appropriate if they came forward with plans to change that lower storefront. Right now, they just have a concept plan, but I think it would be appropriate at this time to.
I'm not following what the lower storefront we're talking about.
Where it's yellow.
Oh, the
first
street
floor.
level.
Street level,
Okay.
first level, correct. Yeah, that's a wooden storefront that was changed from the original look at some point. And then some of the windows have changed on the second story. So, and then obviously the addition of the lighting and the canopies and things like that would not be historic. So it would be appropriate in staff's opinion for those to be removed in this new remodel and redesign of this property. But the historic two-story brick would be preserved and maintained, and any cleaning of the brick, we just recommend that that's done in the most gentle means possible, clean up any smoke damage or anything from the fire. And that can just be, that plan can be presented to staff when they're going through their project plan. So that's staff's recommendation on this item.
Couple of questions of clarification, Dustin. It appears on the project proposal we've seen that the applicant proposes to treat these as two separate buildings. They've been combined at the ground level into one restaurant. So going forward, they'll have more the look of two separate buildings. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, they are two separate buildings,
Right.
as you can tell. But yeah, that canopy.
They've had a
is
joint
kinda-
purpose across the.
That canopy in that first level have
Yeah.
kind of made it look
Yeah.
like one building, but.
And the large new property is only behind the west building, only behind the red bricked building, correct? Not behind the other building.
Correct. Yeah, they're just proposing to build above that that one building.
Any other questions from the commission for Dustin? All right. With that, we will turn the time to the applicant. As a reminder, 15 minutes for your presentation. When your time is up, you'll hear the ding and the microphone will be muted, and we'll ask you for questions if we had any. So please also state your name and
I'm
city of
Bill
residence.
Warner. Happy to be here. Thank you for what you guys do. I think it's very important. Thank you. I don't really have a lot to say. There's quite a bit of damage on the brick right now that is,
On the facade or the?
on the facade, like there's just over the years, there's caulking, and if you go look at it really close, but we plan on just cleaning that up nice. We want it to be nice. We plan on having businesses back in there, and we just really, I'm 100% on board for making this look like it used to. I'm like, whatever you guys want us to do, like no arguments really.
So on the west building, the red brick building, is as we're seeing it here, is that essentially where you're just going to maintain the facade and everything behind the facade will be a new structure?
Yes, the facade, that's the goal.
Yeah.
We want to, everything is going to be.
The damage
the
is
way it
extensive
is.
enough that it
Right.
has
The
to.
demolition is going to be inside,
Mhm.
and those walls are going to remain on on 3 of the 4 sides.
Oh, you will keep
The backside, there's no way to do demo unless you pull the back of the wall on.
okay, but, oh, interesting. So you'll
It'll
keep
have a
the
new
east and west.
steel structure on the inside.
Okay.
That will serve a dual purpose. It will support the existing facade.
Yeah.
And it will also add structure to the new portion of the building. But the new portion of the building will not be sitting on top of or utilizing the existing foundations or brick or anything like that.
Yeah. And how about the east building? Tell us your plans for that building.
The east building is not really damaged that much. If it's structurally sound still, the roof is intact. It needs to be cleaned up. The storefront is really nasty.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like any of it. They have painted, like where the 2 stitched together, they've painted it up to the top of the storefront. And so and they plastered first. They plastered, and then there's really no way to restore that brick right there. But we'll do something like, what I plan to do is skin it with some steel, and then maybe even make the steel a little different color to kind of match the storefronts and stuff, so that they're separate. They look like separate buildings instead of just one continuous building. That's the plan. And we're still in design phase. So we're open, if you guys came back with some suggestions, we'd probably take that into consideration.
Any additional questions or comments for the applicant? As one who lives in the neighborhood and walks or drives by there every single day, thank you.
There's a few stories. If you really want some good history stories on this, I'll tell you some good history stories. When that thing burned down, there was $30,000 worth of food in that freezer that is still there.
No.
So we'll do a little documentation, as we're going along on this, because it is historic. And it brings, I have memories there, and whoever we talk to about this, they're like, oh, I remember, right there in that booth right there, I proposed or whatever, So there is significance to this. And so, we plan on doing like a little documentation as we're doing this, a little social media thing, which I think would be kind of cool.
Well, if it helps, as we kind of were talking about our purview earlier, the food's not within our purview that's been there. So you can do whatever you need to do. Don't feel that you need to keep it for us.
It's got historic significance. I'll tell you that right now.
Only the outside is what we
Hey, just an item
technically care about.
Just an item of interest.
This is just the street view is what you really worry about, right?
Correct. Are there basements in these 2 buildings?
There is.
Usable space?
We plan on actually putting parking underneath the red building.
Okay.
It will have it. It's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
There's no saving it. So it's going to be a complete new structure except for the existing walls on the exterior. And we plan on putting some parking down there. It's going to be tricky because it's not quite big enough for like standard parking, but neither is it quite tall enough for standard parking. So, but hopefully we can get some covered parking up to 11 stalls.
Thanks.
Yeah. And we have agreements with, the city as far as the public parking in the back goes, as far as renting those stalls or having permits on those stalls and stuff for the future tenants also. Does that answer your question? More than answered your question, probably.
How about, I don't know, again, what's appropriate, but I'm curious about bike parking too. If there's any thought to a spot for some bikes.
Bike parking? There's actually bike parking already in the easement.
Yeah.
And there's about 10 bikes there that are about halfway complete. They've been cannibalized, and they're still chained to the parking of the bike stalls. And that is in the easement between the existing building. If you want to show the sides, like of the front view of there is bike stalls there already. There's a little alley like on the left side of the Los Hermanos canopy that goes back to the parking, and there are bike stalls inside of there.
Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Oh, I do have a question. Sorry. just try to trick you. If we follow staff recommendation and approve, how soon do you hope to have tenants in the apartments up above? What's the timeline?
Oh, 2 years probably. Hopefully 18 months, but by the time we get permits through from this date, you're probably looking at a couple of years before tenants will be in there.
Yeah, so we did the
Well, at least
certificate of
on the west building. That
Right,
would be.
right.
On the east building, we're just gonna rehab that and make it nice and
make it sooner.
yeah, make it a lot sooner.
No, we did the certificate of appropriateness for the apartments above your neighbors there a few years ago. Are they full? Do you know? I mean, I'm just hoping that you guys
I think they are full. Yeah,
That's great.
ours are going to be quite a bit smaller than theirs.
Yeah, I saw you're
because
doing
really
three.
there's only egress on the front and the back.
Right.
And so they're kind of more like hotel rooms.
Yeah, long narrow.
You know, like there's one where the stair goes up that has, can have a 2-bedroom unit there. But
Yeah.
most of these are just 1-bedroom units that, basically go front to back because that's
Sure.
all you can really do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we open for public comments if there are any. All right, and a reminder to state your name and city, and you will have, unless you are a neighborhood district chair, you'll have 3 minutes, and if not, you have 2 minutes. Okay.
My name is Adam Anderegg. I'm one of the partners that owns the old library building next door. We just want to express our interest in these kinds of projects, especially this one. And there are 2 issues that we would like the council to address or the city to address. One is there's an unresolved issue on the back lot parking, the street parking, that the city has been working on helping us resolve with the previous owner, as I understand it, of the Los Hermanos buildings. And where utilities go, and the 69 Center, which is the 7-story building or whatever it is, they put a trash compactor there for the block that we need to resolve that as this gets built out. And so it's an issue that we need to work out, I guess is what I'm saying. The second issue is the residences, as I understand it, the parking that Phil referred to is the parking garage. Is that right? The city-owned parking garage? Does anybody know? Yeah. Okay. Somebody's saying correct. Is that you, Phil? Okay. Great. So, we're just excited to have somebody that's excited to do something, and look forward to the facade being preserved and that becoming more of a walkable part of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking care of the library too.
Dustin, Matthew pointed out that is actually more a planning commission item. And I don't know what the procedure would be to get that included in.
Yeah, so a lot of those items, so you guys are looking at a certificate of appropriateness to be able to do something above. And then with that approval, his next step will be to submit a planning application.
Okay, so that's
We'll go
the
to
next
Planning Commission, and there'll be
phase.
public hearings to address a lot of those parking and everything like that.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public?
Hi, my name is John James, and I'm from Orem. I'm looking to move into Provo very soon. I was just wondering if there are any kind of way to see if the facade of the new addition that is excellent and be great, somewhere I would want to live, would be in line with the American Renaissance look that the thing is above. Not saying it should be made out of brick and be super expensive in that way, but they're, for example, graduates of UVU's architectural school that are all trained in classicism and could maybe make it just in line with the current historic texture of the area.
So maybe that's It's a good question. With historic preservation, we don't like new construction to look exactly like, because we don't want anyone to come, in 50 years and say it was built the same time. But it should be complementary, but what that looks like, that would be a next step. So,
A design review step.
yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right, with no further comments, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and entertain motions from this point and discussion.
I have no discussion. I'm ready to make a motion if anybody else wants to discuss.
Please.
I move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness on a remodel of an existing historical structure damaged by fire in the DT1 general downtown zone located at 71 East Center Street.
Second.
All right. Those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Aye. The voting is unanimous and the motion carries with the staff recommended stipulations.
Okay.
With those stipulations, yes.
That's what I just wanted to.
That was part of my motion.
Okay.
Does everyone knew that? We're good?
I got it in there.
Yeah.
Have you covered,
Yeah,
Matthew?
thank you.
With that, we will entertain a motion to adjourn this hearing. That should be the fastest one.
Yeah, I move that we conclude today's meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.